Hey everybody, thank you for being here. My name is Peppa. You probably know me as Peppa Llama, and this is one of my recorded blog posts as part of my Curate a Life that is a work of art philosophy. The blog was posted in its original form on my website, which is peppalama.com. And I've decided to start recording these as little video snippets to share the content in a different way. If, like me, you don't like reading on a screen and you're trying to limit the amount of time that you're spending staring at a screen. I'm recording it in this way so that you can listen to the content rather than having to read it. And I'm recording it in a way that feels almost like as if you were sending like voice notes back and forth to a friend. That's my friends and I always joke to each other when we communicate in this way, is that we're podcasting with each other. So it's a way to have a conversation, a human to human conversation, rather than reading on a screen. And yes, I understand the irony that we're using digital tools to connect, and I'm talking about not being on a screen, but this is the balance of the analog and digital, which is something else that I talk about a lot in my philosophy. So this post was originally written back in January, and it's all about the why I paint barefoot, and there's a science and spirit of going shoeless, and what does that mean? This actually came about because I recorded a podcast episode with the amazing Anna. She's on Instagram as AK Street Art, and I'll put a link below to the original podcast. We were talking about life and creativity in general, and she actually mentioned, she's like, I always see in all of your photos and all of your videos, you're never wearing shoes. And for me, that's totally normal. I've normalized being barefoot, and that's a lot to do with where and how I live. I choose to live in tropical environments because that's where I thrive, that's where I feel the most creative. And by default, I don't really ever have to wear shoes. And I've gotten so used to not wearing them that I don't wear them for most of the activities that I do in life, including painting murals. A lot of people find that very strange, particularly if you perhaps live in an urban environment or a city where perhaps it's not really realistic that you can go barefoot. So that's why I made this post, because something that's very normal to me might not be normal to others. But for me, being barefoot is just such a natural way to be, and it connects me to the earth. You know, you might hear this buzzword like being grounded, being thrown around in wellness spaces. It's literally the best way to ground yourself with the earth is to not wear shoes and feel the earth beneath your bare feet. So there is some science behind this, you know, there is a spirituality component to it. So I wrote this blog just to kind of share my perspective of why I do it and the benefits that I've felt in my own creative practice. So this might not resonate with you. That's totally fine. If you're not in an environment where going shoeless is, you know, much of an option, perhaps you enjoy wearing shoes, you don't like being barefoot, that's great. Everything I'm offering here is just an invitation. I'm putting it out there as a guide and as inspiration. If you find inspiration in this and you want to run with it, that's great. If it's not for you, just leave it. Everything, as I said, it's an invitation. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just going to share some things from my creative life that have worked for me that hopefully inspire you to do your own self-study and incorporate this into your own wellness and creative practices. So I'll start reading the original post, which is titled Why I Paint Barefoot and the Science and Spirit of Going Shoeless. So I feel like my most authentic self when I'm barefoot. And I think it has a lot to do with my lifestyle, which revolves around being on or as close to the beach as possible. Anyone that knows me knows that I am always at the beach. I'm almost always surfing. I'm almost never wearing shoes. That's just authentically who I am. And again, I'll come back to the importance of identifying your 5 core values. Authenticity is number 1 for me, and this is how I feel the most authentic. And when I feel authentic, when I'm living in an authentic way, my creativity is just going to flow by default. So getting in that authentic state of being is where creativity is going to flow. And for me, that's being by the beach and not wearing shoes. I do most things barefoot where I can, even painting murals. And you'll see the photo here that I have. This is from many years ago. That's when Cheech was still with me. This was from a beautiful project in Antigua, Guatemala, which is the beautiful, beautiful part just outside of Guatemala City, about an hour or so outside of Guatemala City, the capital of Guatemala. And it's a really amazing place. And this was a restaurant inside of the Adra Hostel. And you can see I'm up a scaffolding, covered in paint, no shoes. That is my default setting and where I feel the most authentic and creative. So over the years, people have commented on how strange it is to see me working, climbing ladders and scaffolding without shoes. But for me, it's just natural. And I recently recorded a podcast with Anna, and as I said, she's AK Street Art on Instagram, and I'll put all the links for that below. And she actually brought it up in our podcast, which is what inspired me to write this blog post. I embrace my barefoot ways because it feels grounded. It feels like I'm grounding, it feels freeing, and it feels authentic. Of course, there's times when shoes are a must. Obviously, in colder climates, when I'm riding horses, or when I'm walking around an active construction site, depending on the mural that I'm painting. It's not always safe or realistic to go barefoot, but it's something that I like to do whenever I can. And believe me, I've shared with you, I worked in very, very corporate environments in the formative years of my creative career. I've been working as a creative professional for over 25 years, and I started out in a very corporate way, going to the office, wearing heels, dressing, in the corporate attire. I did all of that for many years of my life. So I do understand what it's like to wear shoes. I do understand that there are times in life where it's absolutely necessary, but by choice, by default, if I could choose, it's for me a more natural and authentic way to be to not do it, and that's where I feel the most creative. And walking barefoot connects me to the earth, and it inspires my creativity in a way that shoes never could. Interestingly, there's evidence to support the benefits of going barefoot. So for me, it doesn't just feel good. It's not just an authentic way of being. It's not an authentic creative expression. There's actually benefits to it. So what are those? Walking barefoot on natural surfaces like sand or grass can reduce inflammation, improve your sleep, and boost your mood through grounding. And as I said, you've probably heard this term thrown around in wellness spaces. Grounding is literally connecting yourself to the earth. And the easiest way to do that, take off your shoes and stand on the earth, walk on the earth. If you're in an urban environment, that's probably not as accessible, but perhaps you can go to a park, perhaps you can go to a public place where there is some natural earth that you can walk on. Perhaps in your home, you can go to your front yard if that's there. Anytime you can take your shoes off and connect yourself to the earth and ground yourself in that way, it's a really interesting practice to incorporate into just wellness in general, and just to feel the sensations of your feet touching the ground. Which, in modern life, for example, if you're in a city, you're in an urban environment, you're constantly wearing shoes, you might be missing that connection. So I'm just throwing this out here as an invitation, even if it's not something you do all the time. The next time you have the opportunity to take your shoes off and walk barefoot on the earth in nature, I invite you to do it and just see what comes up, see how you feel. It also strengthens the muscles in your feet and your ankles, so it improves your balance, your posture, and your overall foot health. For me, I am so used to not wearing shoes now when I work, when I'm climbing a ladder, when I'm on a scaffolding or so forth, that in the some of the rare cases where I actually do have to wear shoes because of the environment that I'm in, I don't feel that I have the same sense of balance. For example, climbing a ladder barefoot or scaling a scaffolding like this barefoot just feels so much more natural to me. I feel more connected to the structure. I feel like I can kind of bend my feet around it almost like a monkey and just kind of like climb things a lot more easily. Again, this is my lived experience. This is how it's working out for me, but there are actually benefits to your physical body to doing this as well. Strengthening your legs, strengthening your muscles, and having more of a connection to your balance. Barefoot walking also enhances spatial awareness, so you have a little bit more of an understanding of where you are in the world and what's going on around you, and your coordination, because it allows your feet to respond to the ground. You don't have that barrier of a shoe. And it also promotes better blood circulation, and it can reduce discomfort caused by restrictive shoes. So there's actual physical benefits to this as well. It'll perhaps improve your balance, and it'll just improve the connection that you have to your feet and to the natural world around you. And it might also be because I'm Australian. Obviously, growing up in Australia in the 80s and 90s and being on the beach, going barefoot was just part of life. It's a very Australian thing to not wear shoes. And even though I haven't lived in Australia for 20 years, that part of me has stuck around. So it might be cultural as well as just something that I've learned and become accustomed to, who knows. Being barefoot is my most natural state, and I'd like to think that sense of freedom and connection comes through in my artwork. Like I said, when I'm in a natural state, when I'm flowing, when I'm feeling creative, that's when I feel like my creativity just flows forth effortlessly. And hopefully you see that in my mural work, like the one here above. I invite you to go to my website, peppalama.com. You can follow me on Instagram or other socials, Pinterest, things online. I'm Peppa Llama pretty much everywhere. The majority, I would say probably more than 90% of the photos and videos that I upload of all of my work, as I'm doing it, I'm not wearing shoes, so you can see that for yourself. And hopefully that expression of freedom, that creative freedom that I have by being authentic, being myself, not being restricted, it comes through in my artwork. And this is what I invite you to do as well, to explore this for yourself. If it's not something you've really thought about in a mindful way, you have a think about it. Like, take your shoes off, go for a walk, make something without your shoes on. If you're a muralist, you don't have to go and do it for a client, obviously, but if it's something that you can do as on a practice wall at your house, or just something that you want to do in your own time, just see how it feels to create without shoes on. Feel that experience in your body and see what comes up for you, and if it's something that you want to perhaps pursue. So being barefoot is it's my natural state. And so that's what works for me. As I said, this is just something that I'm guiding you, and hopefully I'm going to inspire you to think about not using shoes in a different way. If this resonates, I invite you to try it for yourself. Perhaps you want to do a little bit of a deep dive on the science behind it, understanding a little bit more, like from a physiology standpoint, how does it benefit your body to not be wearing shoes? And I'd love to hear your comments. Let me know in the comments below if this is something that you do yourself, or perhaps you're interested in trying it out. Let me know how it goes. And what are your insights? What do you feel are the benefits or the downsides of not wearing shoes? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. And if you want to continue learning about how to curate a life that is a work of art, I invite you to visit my website. We can also work together. I can be your creative guide. There's more information on that on my website as well. And as I said, I'm Peppa Llama pretty much everywhere online. And I'll also put some links in the notes below so that you can do a little bit more of your own self-study on this subject if it's something that interests you. Thank you so much for being here, and have a good one.